Hey, and welcome guys to my deck profile of my Monarch build. I'm planning to take it to a tournament soon, as well as test it out at locals and stuff. So basically, let's get right into it. I'm going to do the monsters first. I don't actually play a extra deck, so that should kind of give you away like what deck I'm playing. I don't have a side deck yet, because I'm still working out the kinks of like what I need to side, but anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. So for the boss monsters of the deck, I'm playing 3 Ether. Should be pretty obvious now. The Heavenly Monarch. Just an overall solid card. I really like the card too. Next, playing 3 Erebus, because Erebus is godlike. Quite literally one of the best cards in the Monarch deck. Next, for the little tribute fodder guys, we're playing 3 Ida, because Ida is pretty powerful too. We're also playing 3 Eidos. I think that makes sense. Like, together, they just work really, really well as a deck. And lastly, for the monsters that we play 3 of, is 3 Kaisis, the Shadow Monarch, because he's just so good in the current meta. He gets like such a awesome effect. Basically, you tribute an opponent's monster and then you can banish a card on their field by summoning this guy. He's just so good. I love him so much. He's probably my favorite out of the Monarchs besides Mobius. I think Mobius is a little bit more powerful. And now for the one-of cards that I'm playing in the deck. I'm playing 1 Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit. Hold on. Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit in the main deck, because Monarchs don't really do well against like things like anti-spell fragrance and other like face-up spell and trap cards, as well as floodgates, so this kind of circumvents that problem of them being bad with that stuff. Next is playing 1 Dark Arm Dragon. Now, Dark Arm Dragon is a beast because you actually can use some of the Monarch support cards on him, and since you can banish cards, you can get free pops with him. And since certain cards can, correlate with him being like, oh, hey, I'm just going to activate this, activate that, and then add the banished cards back to your hand, it's really, really nice. It goes really well with, I think it's Ida, the Heavenly Monarch, whatever. It's a pretty dang good card. Shame that you can only play it at 1. And lastly, the MVP of the deck, the Tyrant Neptune. So, normally, you'd have to tribute like several monsters to summon him, but he can be tributed with just 1. But this is good. Say you have a Eidos, and then your opponent has like a Dark Destroyer on the field. You can Monarch Stormforth, well, maybe not a Dark Destroyer, but like, say, a Slip Rider. You can Monarch Stormforth it, and then summon out this guy, and he's just so good, because he can steal the effect of one of the cards tributed to summon him. He's such a good, nice card. He doesn't really have a lot of searchability, so he's just kind of like there if you get him. But yeah. Oh, and you can lower his level with Domain. And next, we are playing 3 Monarch Stormforth. Obvious, tribute your opponent's monster, get a free plus. That has to be good. Obviously, we're playing 3 Pot of Monarchs. I mean, Pantheism of Monarchs. It's essentially a Pot of Greed with searchability for Monarchs. Now, this may seem like a weird choice, but the Return of the Monarchs, we're playing 3 of these, just because Twin Twister's a thing, and you kind of want to bluff your opponent, and if they don't get rid of this card when it's face up on the field, you can do a lot of power plays with it. And you can also do a lot of searchability. In fact, you can even get Dark Arm Dragon from this, so you can search out your Dark Arm Dragon with this card. Pretty crazy. Next, playing 3 March of the Monarchs. I think this card is pretty self-explanatory. Your tribute summoned monsters are just gonna be fine, and they can't be targeted or destroyed, which is nice. So, gets rid of Raigeki being a problem. Next, we only play 2 Tenacity of the Monarchs, because there's not a lot of times where you have the 2400 attack monster in your hand. In this deck, it's more 2800, but sometimes you have Kaisis, and it's good to get free searches. Next, we play 3 domain of the True Monarchs. Obviously, you want to play 3 domain. You never want to play anything less because you want to be able to lock down your opponent's extra deck and say, "Oh, you play extra deck? I don't need no extra deck. I one punch man you to the face." So yeah. And Soul Charge is the last spell card, because special summoning the Monarch like Kaisis or anybody else is a really nice bet, because then you can just boom, 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 get all 3 of your Monarchs, and then your opponent who thought he had destroyed your cards are pretty good. And then this can be a really good top deck if you have March of the Monarchs with you, because then this basically just says boom. Granted, they aren't tribute summoned, but your opponent, when they're playing, is gonna be like, crap, now I have to get around everything. So it's just a nice thing, and it also helps refuel you for that Tyrant Neptune. So pretty good. Now onto the traps. So for the traps, play 3 the Monarch's Awakens, which just basically is like, it's essentially a Forbidden Lance that doesn't worry about anything. So it's pretty good. Only problem is it's a trap card, so you can't quick play it from your hand. I thought about throwing in a Forbidden Lance and taking out 1 Monarch's Awakens. I mean, you can do that, but you really don't want to be lowering the attack points of your monster. So that's why I play 3 right now. Beautiful Forbidden Lance right there. Beautiful card. Anyway, moving on to the Prime Monarchs, because the Prime Monarch is a beastly card. In fact, it's so beastly because it gives you so much draw power, and of course, if your opponent doesn't Twin Twister it, or MST it, or whatever, or get rid of it, it becomes a problem for them. Your opponent really doesn't want to leave this on the field after you play it on their turn. Like, if you end phase this, and they don't have an immediate answer, this card is good. And then if they do Twin Twister, you can kind of make comebacks and kind of stall out with this card. You can stall out against, like, Slip Rider and stuff with that. And last trap card is the first Monarch. This is just like an ace card. And look, it's so shiny. Anyway, it's a cool card. It's basically just like you special summon it, and then you can discard a card, and it counts as 2 tributes for the attribute. So for things like Tyrant Neptune, you can basically get the Tyrant Neptune out legitimately, and then Stormforth your opponent, take one of their cards, and then immediately Tyrant Neptune has 2,000 plus whatever the attack of your opponent, and the Tyrant Neptune just becomes this big beefy shield. Unfortunately, this doesn't really give it an effect, but if you're in a pinch, this is a good idea. So that concludes the deck. Unfortunately, I don't have an extra deck or a side deck to show off. I would show off a side deck, but I'm still working out the kinks on the side deck. Side deck isn't really that important for Monarchs, except just maybe Cosmos stuff, facing up against Cosmos, but really you don't have to worry too much about Cosmos in this build, because you have the Tyrant Neptune, and you're running 3 Stormforths. So, yep. I'm going to continue to test it, and any updates I'll change to the deck. Peace out. See you guys in the next episode. Stay frosty.